Hey everybody, it's Ryan. I have just completed 2,300 miles in 8 days, 6 days on the TAT. Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee. Just got home 15 minutes ago. Had a quick snack and need to unpack the bike, get some wet stuff out. So I thought that I would, just do a bit of a download video on how things went as far as gear, so that other folks like me that are trying to get into adventure biking or considering going on the TAT, things like that, hopefully it's helpful. So yeah, not a professional or anything like that, but as I was preparing to do the TAT over the last couple of weeks, I've been watching lots of videos and had a lot of questions that I didn't kind of see answered, so I was going to try to answer some of those, or at least ask more questions. So anyways, it is what it is. So first off, the star of the show was the bike. So Valerie the V-Strom, she's a 2014 Suzuki V-Strom 650 DL. She was amazing. We spent 6 days on road, off road, climbing mountains at 5 miles an hour, going down mountains at 5 miles an hour, through water, over rocks, gravel, just everything. And she handled it like a champ. There was zero hiccups. I did no maintenance, no adjustments, no nothing. So she's just an amazing bike. Tires are K60 Scouts 50/50s. Those came in super handy, in particular in some of the wet and softer gravel stuff. There's only one time, like 2 days ago, out in Tennessee, where I was in some loose gravel that was actually covered in a couple inches of water. It was real soft, and we did kind of get sunk down a little bit, but once the tires were able to grip, it would sort of just pull me out and sort of get me stuck again, and pull me out, get me stuck again. That was only for 60 seconds of sort of the trip. So the tires stuck great. Yesterday, on the way back, after I came back from Tennessee, or on the way back, I was trying to outrun a rainstorm. Totally didn't. But I was on interstate and highways for 10 hours yesterday, and K60 50/50s were just crushing it. In the rain, it was raining a lot. I was going, anywhere between 60 and 75 in the rain, full rain suit, all that kind of stuff. But tires were amazing. So I can't really believe that the tires in the bike performed that well to go from full-on off-road sort of TAT mode to blasting away on the highway. And we got into Maggie Valley last night near Asheville, and just stayed at a hotel to dry out, actually, mostly. It was cold. And left this morning. It was about 37 degrees. Went back on the highway and just took I-40 for about 5.5 hours or so. And everything was great. I'm super impressed with this bike. I could not want anything more from this bike or another bike. So for those interested, Suzuki V-Strom is definitely a good one. So other gear. So these are my O'Neill Sierra boots. These were amazing. It's the only shoe I had. I had mentioned I was going to try to bring some flip-flops, and they're of course in my house right where I left them, but really didn't need those. These were great. They were awesome on the trail. There's one time on the bike when I was trying to get around something, and like if I was an inch shorter, I would have just fallen over on my left side, because I was just trying to kind of tiptoe around a tree basically. And the boots, just being thick and tall, actually came in handy. So I'm 5'10", and on a V-Strom, which is kind of a mid-level adventure bike, not a huge one. I really kind of needed that additional height, actually, and I knew that going into it. I've always thought about maybe dropping the bike, just like an inch or an inch and a half or something like that. But I want to try to keep things stock and reliable. So anyways, adventure boots were great. The only problem I had with them, which I suspect you'd have with a lot of different boots like this, is that they're waterproof up to about here, and this is where the fold goes over. And so if you have a creek crossing, or you've got a bunch of splashing coming in, and it gets through here, it's more than 7 inches or so, it's going to be wet. And so these boots have been wet for 3 days now. I was able to dry them out twice at a hotel, essentially. Got an hair dryer that was there, and dried them out, but they're still wet from yesterday, even after I did the same thing. So I need a solution for that for sure, because as funny and fun as it was for just a little bit to be sloshing around in my boots after going across a creek. Yesterday when I was driving in 10 hours of rain and it was 50 degrees on the highway, having wet feet and cold boots and cold hands also was not fun. I don't recommend that. So if anybody has a solution for boots like these, which I love, how to dry them out either at a campsite or if there's just something else I'm missing when they get wet, that would be super helpful. I'd love to know that. But I do love the boots. They were awesome. I would totally buy these again. Highly recommend them. Just need to figure out a way to actually get them not wet when they do get wet. So there's that. So other thing that I need to figure out, well, I know what to do, but something that didn't go so well was just my gloves. These are my summer, normal riding gloves. And with the trip back yesterday and then also this morning, if it's 50 or below, then I'm comfortable in my regular gear, but that means I really need to have insulated gloves, and these are just my summer gloves. So yesterday on the highway for the 10 hours back in the rain, in the cold, that was pretty uncomfortable. So my hands were looking not so good. They were purple, actually. So I forgot to bring insulated, cold weather gloves. I think those would have come in handy as well on some of the mountain trails. When I was doing my prep for this, I didn't really imagine being on, the mountain up in northwest Georgia, like the first one you get to. I forget what it's called, near the Catahoula, whichever one that is. Anyways, I didn't really think that I'd be like on the mountain for 4 hours, but I was on the mountain for 4 hours, just riding around real slow, just kind of getting up and over it. And that gets cold, so just keep that in mind for your trip if you're thinking about it. Is definitely bring cold weather gloves in addition to just regular ones, I guess. So backups are probably always a good idea. My helmet's just a cheapo built helmet. It did fine. I'm going to retire it here in the near future, though. My face mask vent thing definitely flew off at some point in time a couple days ago. This one on the top, that's the roof vent. This thing just bounces up and down. It doesn't really stay anymore. So this is just 2 years old. It's been worn out, so it served its purpose. But I do like these helmets, though. I guess I'll say that have the flip-up visor, because when I'm cruising around on trails, I wear sunglasses underneath a visor like this. I'll have it up all the time, and then if I'm going through, if there's a truck with smoke or something else going on, I'll lower it, or on the highway, of course. But I think one of the flip-up masks that have the whole thing that comes up with the jaw and all that, that's probably what I'm going to look at for my next one. So, anyways, I've got my Camel Pack inside. I really didn't think that I was going to use a Camelback. I have one for like running and stuff like that, but as soon as I kind of realized what I could use it for on the trip, which was obviously staying hydrated, but also just kind of keeping a couple of Cliff Bars and some things with me, it came in handy and I got used to it. It didn't bother me to have it on my back when I was riding or anything like that, and it was definitely a good reminder just to drink some fluids throughout the day. So totally recommend something like that, just to make sure you stay hydrated. I just used a tail bag. It's really just a tank bag, but I just put it on the tail here and had a plastic container on the inside, waterproof, and just did that so that my electronics could be in here. So battery charger, matches, anything that I didn't want to get wet was in there. So that worked out fine. This is just a cheapo built bag, but it can get wet no problem. And I didn't do one on the tank because I just I guess I just don't really like having a bag on the tank. I want to kind of have that space just available so I can kind of lean over and enjoy myself, or I don't know, fill gas, not worried about a tank bag, getting all messed up and falling into your crotch or something like that. So whatever. Had the webbing over all my gear. That was just kind of extra precaution. Normal bungee cords like these don't do a whole lot. I just had these left over. But these rubber ones are amazing. So I had all my gear kind of like this for the whole time, and nothing bounced around, nothing popped off, nothing even moved. So these rubberized bungee cords, I definitely recommend these. Those were really, really nice to have. All right, so before I forget my most favorite modification on the bike, I want to show that to you guys. So from, I guess, Twisted Throttle, I think, I had this little canister here that you're really supposed to use for like gas or tools, but what I really enjoyed having was hot coffee throughout the day. And so this is a perfect fit for pretty much, majority of coffee containers like this one. So I popped into McDonald's this morning in Waynesville and grabbed a snack and had some coffee. And there you go. So I think that was just kind of a nice ad. Seems maybe a little silly, but honestly, it's not. When you're riding around on the trail and you need a shot of coffee and caffeine, or just to take a break and chill for a minute, it's really nice to not have to fumble through a tank bag or any other bag or pop a box or anything else. My coffee just sits in its container down here, and I know it's always there. So that was actually really great. I was really happy to have that. So coffee for the road is good. Those little canisters are great. This location in between the box and the tire, no problem. Didn't run into any issues with that. So my clothes were in this bag. So that's a dry bag. Everything worked out well. The straps have, fallen off of this over the last probably year from just me using it too roughly. But all in all, it worked out very well. So definitely recommend that. Yesterday I had my rain suit on all day long, so I'm gonna have to dry this out. But full rain suit on all day long yesterday. That was super necessary. This is the one from Built, so I got this at Cycle Gear. I think this was only like 35 or 40 bucks maybe. And jacket and pants, they just go over what you're already wearing. So definitely recommend that. Absolutely came in handy yesterday. I would have been completely miserable if I was trying to drive through that much rain and weather without a suit on. So definitely recommend that. My air mattress is going to have to go to the recycling bin, unfortunately. I was using this throughout the week, and I'd wake up in the morning and have about 25% of the air left in it, and so when you're on gravel or sticks underneath you, it's just not very comfortable. So here's my tank bag. So this is going to the garbage, unfortunately. I'll have to get another one, but kind of knew that going into it, that it might be on its last use. This bag was amazing. So I was looking at spending like $75, $85 or something like that on a dry bag that's like a 35, 40 liter or so, just to do what I'm doing with it, to stuff things in it. And when I was on a trip to Walmart before, just prepping and getting food and stuff like that, and some little bit of camping gear, they had this sitting there, and this was less than $20. It was maybe like $18, I think. And it's a waterproof roll-up dry bag, and this thing was amazing. It's doesn't seem like it's the most durable material, but it's great for this. I mean, I think it's perfect for using it on a bike for soft stuff. So I had in here my rain slick for my tent, so that was definitely needed too. If you're going to be on the TAT for a couple of days or somewhere else adventure biking, seems like a waterproof tent system would be appropriate. Had my actual tent as well. I had to totally bail yesterday morning. 6:30 storms were coming in, so that was really the nice thing about having this bag. I just threw all my soft stuff in here, and it was wet too. And then I dried most of it at the hotel last night, but when I was camping and needed to get out of town pretty quickly, it came in handy. Tarp was great as well. I used that last night, or 2 nights ago as well, at the campsite, and just stuffed it in the bag. And this stuff doesn't weigh anything, of course, so this bag wasn't heavy at all. It was just purpose built for just kind of stuffing everything in here, if it's dry or it's wet. And that really came in handy. So the last thing in here was just my sleeping bag. So this is a 30-degree sleeping bag. It's a mummy bag. This came from Dick's Sporting Goods, I think. And this one worked out great for me. I was not cold any nights. With my tent, the rain slick on it, tarp underneath, and then my mummy bag, and just sweater and pants on. I wasn't cold, and it got down to about, I think, 35 degrees on one of the nights that I was camping. So that was good. So I guess that's all the stuff on the top. So there's a couple things I did use and some things I didn't use that I won't need for next time, which was helpful. I did pack dish detergent and a scrubby brush. That was great to do dishes, so I would definitely do that again. Had my electronics just kind of scattered about, but mostly in my tank bag. So I did, for cooking my meals, just a regular little burner and gas canister, and then this is a single pot system that's got 2 bowls that come with it. So that's all I used. I actually did not use the other one, and I thought that I would, so that was pretty cool. I also didn't even go through a single tank of gas, so I brought 3 of these with me, which of course you can also get, at most kind of, gas station stores that are kind of out in the country, so to speak. So I only used 1 of them, and not even the whole one. So I guess probably don't need to bring 3 of those for next time, but maybe just 2. So that came in handy. I did not go through all my groceries, which was probably a good thing. I had some food left over, so I basically just stuffed everything into this little cooler bag, and then I would just kind of grab this, bring it to my campsite, and use what I wanted to. But I've still got probably 3 days of meals in there. So I had some extra work gloves, which came in handy for getting firewood and stuff like that the other night. More food. Hatchet versus shovel. So the shovel's in the other box. I did not need both. I would recommend bringing a hatchet. Shovel didn't seem necessary. You can dig a hole with a hatchet, which is what you would do with a shovel. But the hatchet came in handy just to cut a couple branches and things like that, and then cut up some sticks for my camp. So I would suggest bringing a hatchet like this one. I don't think that a shovel, even my foldable one, was really needed. But one or the other, or a hatchet's my recommendation. Miscellaneous stuff in here, nothing else. Kitchen supplies, I just kind of had those thrown in here from the other night when I bailed quickly. My bathroom bag came in handy, so toilet paper, wipes, all those kinds of things. Obviously, gonna need that wherever you go. Had a waterproof phone holder that I ordered special for my phone, sized for it, which of course didn't actually fit. When I tried it just in test mode, my test ride, the buttons did not line up with where they are on the actual case. So I was trying to turn my screen off, for example, to save battery, and that just didn't work. So this thing's unfortunately just garbage, but maybe I'll try to repurpose it. My folding chair was great. So I did this whole ride, by the way, like during the pandemic, towards the end of it, hopefully. And so when I went into Subway at a gas station in Georgia, maybe, I guess, there's no seating inside, and after being on your bike for 3 or 4 hours or whatever, you just kind of want to maybe sit down, not on your bike. And so I just popped my chair open at the gas station and sat down and had myself a sandwich, and people thought it was probably weird, and it's just like I'm sitting down having a sandwich, leave me alone. So miscellaneous bags and stuff that became unpacked when I was packing quickly the other night. Had some English muffins left over, which was kind of nice to have those. Hammock. I did not use my hammock. I would totally bring it again because it doesn't weigh much, doesn't take up much room, and it's nice to have a hammock, but I just did not do a whole lot of chillaxing when I was at my campsite. I was either writing or setting up my camp or just sitting down trying not to do anything else. This was my shovel, so I used it a couple times just to dig holes and, well, poop in, but I don't think that I needed this. It is a little weighty, so instead I would just use the machete and just cut a hole in the ground with the machete. But nice to have, worked well. I just didn't really need it. 2 things I also did not use were these guys, and I forget where my, it is somewhere. I know where it is. Hold on. This is me emptying my bag now outside. Here we go. My inflatable pillow worked well. That was nice to have. So these 2 are LED lights that are USB chargeable, and I normally bring these camping with me in the adventure camper. So they're not heavy, but they've got a little bit of weight to them. all I used was this little guy. So this one is solar powered, stores enough power for, I guess, really a full night actually. And then when you get to your campsite, so when you're riding around, just keep this like strapped onto the back of your bag, and it's going to charge during the day, as long as it's sunny, of course, or at least moderately sunny. And then you blow it up when you get to your campsite, and then turn it on, and it's got a couple different modes for it. And this thing was great. I think I got this at Walmart too for, you know, maybe like 10 or 15 bucks at the most. And this is the only light that I used at the campsite. I had a citronella candle as well, which I totally recommend, just for bugs and a little bit of sort of a nice non-motorcycle ambiance. But I did not use these lights, and so I would not bring them again, just to save a little bit of room and a little bit of weight. But this thing worked great, so I totally recommend that. Would definitely suggest folks get something like that for your trip. Plates, so I actually did not use these either, because my pot system has some bowls that come with it, so this was probably overkill on my part. Didn't need these, and probably won't bring them on the next one. I do love coffee, and while I do love coffee, I'm not so much of a coffee snob when I'm on trips that I can't do instant, which is what I did. So I had just instant coffee. I have them somewhere. I don't know where they're. Instant coffee, little individual packets from Starbucks. Got those at the grocery store, and those are the ones where you just pour them into hot water and then you got coffee. That was perfectly fine. I was super happy to have that kind of coffee as opposed to actually, you know, bringing grounds and doing an actual French press, which I really do enjoy. It's just the quality of the coffee that I needed while I was on my camping and motorcycling during the day was less than what I would normally probably require, so not to worry there. So these are little, I guess, squares of combustible material. I don't know what you want to call these, but basically it's just a campfire starter. So what I did when I finally got to the state campground 2 nights ago, the first thing I did was just, you know, jumped off the bike. It was actually already 8:30 and almost no sunlight anymore, which is weird. It was sunlight at 8:30 still, but there was. And grabbed some sticks and everything, just like threw it in the fire pit that was there. Grabbed a couple of these, lit these on fire, and I had a fire going in 5 minutes. So I'm, you know, fine at making fires in lots of different kinds of ways, but having these little guys as a starter was awesome. It saved, you know, maybe 10 or 15 minutes of setup after riding for 12 hours, and it was 8:30, and I just wanted to have a campfire and get my dinner going. So having a little bit of fire starter with you is a great idea. So other bags that I've unpacked, this was like a blanket that I basically had, did not use that. Had a towel as well. I brought a little speaker, that was great. I did enjoy that when I had time to actually sit down by the campfire and have a little of my box of wine. That was helpful. Citronella candle, I totally recommend that. That was just nice again for kind of ambiance and to keep the mosquitoes away. I had some repellent, but actually did not use that. Wasn't so bad that I needed it. This is my other small pot for boiling water, and usually I would use this to make coffee. But since I was using the one pot and cleaning that out each time I'd use it, and then I could boil water the next morning with that to make instant coffee in my coffee container, I didn't use this. So this was maybe just a backup if it was a 2-person trip. I'd probably bring it again. But for just me, using just the one pot system would have been fine. So this seemed to have not worked. I don't really need this, but I had it, so I thought that I would bring it, but for some reason it just wasn't working, so I may have broken this at some point in time, so that's going to the garbage. Had my battery tender just in case, a little compressor for tire inflation just in case, didn't use that. Life water, did not need that, did not think that I would. First aid kit is as is, so didn't hurt myself. And then had a couple of extra canisters, gas, some straps just in case, jumper cables just in case, and I think that's about it. So I guess other than all of that stuff, the other thing that I really liked on the bike was my fuel canisters. So that was just in case, and I thought it was interesting on the TAT trail. Sam, and I guess just Sam, but Sam for laying it out. I mean, you go around town, so even if you see like on your Gaia GPS, which I was using, that like you're coming up to an intersection where there's clearly, you know, two major roads, and you can kind of tell, depending on what your settings are in Gaia, or if you know you're coming up to like a town. I mean, in a lot of cases, the trail takes you around it. So if you're expecting to just like bump into a gas station and pop in, but you're just following the trail, you might actually miss it. You have to know to sort of go into town. Um, you know, Blowing Rock, North Carolina was an exception. It takes you right through downtown, which is kind of fun. And the trail actually goes through downtown, which was interesting. It kind of goes right out of it. But anyways, long story short, having these was helpful. It was just kind of a nice insurance policy in case I didn't find gas. I never had a problem finding gas. So as I was on my trip back yesterday and today, and then when I filled up today, I would just drop one of these, actually both of them, into the tank on the first fill up, because I was on the interstate, obviously not worried about it there. So I recommend these. They did not move an inch. They didn't spill. They didn't smell. Nothing. And you know, when I got these from, it was Twisted Throttle, RevZilla. I kind of forget which one, but when I got these from them, you know, I was trying to figure out kind of how best to mount them. I thought it would look kind of best straight up and down, but the mount for it doesn't actually fit on my box, at least like that. It might have if it was kind of like this, but then the bottom would be like below the bottom. So there really wasn't a better way to mount it than kind of a little cornered, angled like this, which was fine. I didn't want it, you know, too far off on this side, because then as I was going around trees or brush, then it would sort of like maybe rip this off or anything. So this ended up being a really good spot for me. They came in handy. Again, it was just kind of an insurance policy, but I really appreciated it, and fortunately didn't have to use them. So, and I guess the other one was, I've got another little kind of container here, and that was for just kind of a winch line. So just in case there was some situation that I needed to, you know, maybe winch myself out of, or maybe help somebody else, then I would have been able to do that. But just at least having the line, of course, but not an actual winch system. But didn't need to, so that was good. So I guess that's kind of it as far as gear goes. I had kind of my full winter getup on today, just because it was cold. So, you know, it's the middle of May right now, and it was hot on the first day, and then all of the other days were kind of cool, and then it was cold up on the mountains, and there was plenty of rain. So I definitely recommend to folks to, you know, bring cold weather and wet weather gear, whether you think you're going to need it or not. It might surprise you, and then when you have it, you'll be very fortunate and glad that you did. So I guess that's it for me. I'm going to dry all this stuff out and decompress a little bit. But 2,300 miles on the road over 8 days. You know, I guess it was something like 800 back yesterday and today on highways, and then the other 1,500 or 1,600 or so was on the TAT trail, so back roads and pavement and gravel and stuff. But it was really fun. I enjoyed it. Totally want to do it again. Virginia, driving through there was my favorite. Not a lot of off-road stuff, but on the pavement through the Jefferson Forest was just amazing. It was so beautiful. Georgia was probably overall my favorite state. I'm from Georgia and had no idea that some of the places I went even existed. The Crocker Pigeon Mountain, whichever one that's called, up in the northwest corner, you like drive up the state park and like on top of this farm, and then you drive through the valley, and then you eventually get to Trenton, Georgia. That was just amazing. I want to do that like tomorrow. So I would totally go back and do that again. First half of Tennessee was sort of uneventful, just driving through farms really, and it was a nice peaceful drive. It was super easy, but nothing really happened. And then the second part of Tennessee for me was trails and a lot of water crossings actually, which some of which were kind of challenging. So I would love to do that trip again. Really enjoyed it. Look forward to maybe starting on the Tennessee side, you know, on the Mississippi corner, kind of near Sam's house, on the next one, and then maybe going west from there for my next trip. So I'll be working on that sometime in the near future. But I'll probably post another video or two, just kind of about lessons learned or something like that, recommendations. But for now, that's kind of the download on the gear, and I'm going to take a break. So see you next time.